So I made this video about using Ramp and Accruer together to automate prepaid expenses, specifically with Ramp's bill pay option. And then Dave from Ramp hit me up and wondered, hey, can you do the same thing with credit card transactions? What's up, Dave?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for commenting on our post.
I loved it. I thought it was a really great video. I had never known that you could use FinOptimal with Ramp and QuickBooks. Super stoked to see it live in action.
Yeah, well, let's do you asked if we could do credit cards and we can, but
Yes.
I have to admit I've never seen Ramp. So can you show me Ramp's credit card stuff and we can talk about how Accruer works with it?
Awesome. Let me share my screen. All right. So here's Ramp. I have two transactions, one for Zendesk and one for Salesforce. Let's start with the Zendesk transaction here. I'm just going to code this to software and subscriptions. And I'm going to add a memo. Anything else I need to do to make it work for Accruer?
This will work.
What if I just did like 11325 at 41325? Would that work as well?
That would totally work.
And then for Salesforce, this $100,000, this is actually for Dreamforce. So I'm going to book this to advertising. This is for getting a booth there or sponsorship there. Just in September 25. Can I do the whole month or do you need a specific date?
If you don't do a day, it's going to just do the full months.
Awesome. Now I need to mark these as ready to sync. So now they're fully coded. So now these are ready to sync and I'm going to sync them all. And
That's
now
it?
they're being synced over to QuickBooks. So now let's go over to transactions. Here we go. And we can open it up in QuickBooks.
Sweet. So you just click that button and then it shows up in QBO in a couple seconds?
Yeah, it's really quick. We did all four of those transactions in less than 2 seconds.
That's sick. And then what Accruer does is as soon as this is booked, Accruer sees that for the period that you put in a description and it runs automatically. So even if you're literally just working in Ramp and click sync, you don't even have to log into QuickBooks. It'll book those accruals for you in the background.
Okay. It started on the 13th and ends on the 13th. What's important for me is that there's, a little bit of this is accrued in January. A third is accrued in February. A third is accrued in March. And then the remainder should be in April.
That's exactly what you're going to see here. It's going to split it automatically based on the number of days in each of those periods.
Okay. And then this transaction is getting booked to the P&L, to software and subscriptions. But
Correct.
I needed to get booked to prepaid software or prepaid expenses until the journal entries that will expense the rest, right?
Correct. So when you're categorizing it in Ramp, when you're doing your credit card processing in Ramp, you book it to the account that it needs to eventually be recognized to. So you actually don't need to explain accrual accounting to anyone who's doing the categorization. They just need to know how to write for the period. Accruer sees it's hitting the expense account, sees you wrote for the period, and knows to move it to the balance sheet and amortize it from there for you automatically.
That's great. So it doesn't matter how I pay my bills, whether I pay my bills with card transactions or through accounts payable through Ramp Bill Pay. They both show up. They both can be accrued appropriately.
Exactly. So here's the Salesforce one that you did also. And because you just wrote one date, it's going to just shift it to that period of time. So when we look at the first entry, it's going to spread it between January and April. But with one date, it's going to just shift it to September. So this is what you would normally do if you're buying a trade show booth, like you said, booking flights, stuff like that.
So can you show me now the impact on the P&L?
So you got the advertising, you hit the expense account on the 23rd, and it's immediately reversed on the 23rd. And you'll see the description that you put before for the period is showing up here. So you get the same amount of detail that you want on all of your automated entries. But there's no impact today because it's January. Just because you prepaid it, there shouldn't be P&L impact. But if I zoom out to the end of the year, we'll see it coming back and posting this $100,000 entry.
So you have that journal entry reversing it out, and then you have another journal entry in September to book it now from prepaid to expense. Very
Correct.
cool. I mean, that's exactly what I would do manually if I were doing this as part of my month-end close process.
Awesome. All right, let's look at the other one. And here's the other one that you posted, right? Same thing, posted, reversed, and then one journal entry at the last day of the month, every month to recognize it.
The first two transactions make sense, right? You have the ramp card transaction of 30K. You have the reversal out on the same day. But now I was expecting right? 30,000 divided by 3 months. I was expecting $10,000 for both February and March. Here it looks like it's 9,725 and 27 cents. What's going on there? Is the calculation correct?
Well, you remember the kids in school, the well, actually, and they would correct everybody. Accruer has that same attitude, okay? And Dave, you actually wrote, and I'll show you, not to well, actually, you wrote the 13th to the 13th, which is technically 3 months and 1 day.
Gotcha.
So
Okay,
that is
so
why Accruer is doing it. But Accruer does have a nice little feature. Or if I just edit this and resave it, in 20 seconds, it's going to go through, recalculate, and edit those journal entries. And it'll show you the audit history of those edits so you can see the full traceability into that accrual's life cycle.
that's really cool. So even if someone messes up in the description when syncing over in Ramp, you as an accountant can fix it. You don't have to manually make all those changes to the journal entries. You just have to fix the memo and it'll kind of flow through to all the journal entries that you have with Accruer.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
And if the books are locked, it won't restate the locked period. It'll true it up in the first unlocked period. So you're safe.
That's going to save a lot of time. That's really cool.
All right, let's look back at the updated entries. Now this is what you're expecting, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Super neat, super clean.
Okay, so that's really cool. I see the P&L impact. What kind of, support, audit support can I show to an auditor?
I thought you'd never asked. All right, cool. Dave, so we're looking at the balance sheet. We were just using the prepaid expenses, right? And here are the balances for the entire year, right? Right, some of this is coming off because we have that quarterly payment that wound down into April, but we're carrying that $100,000 Dreamforce prepayment until September. So it gets totally washed out in September. But how do I tie this out? Accruer has a ton of built-in reporting. So we have 2 transactions in your environment, and you're seeing 2 rows, one for each accrual. You're getting 4 columns per month. So every month you can see, what did we start with? What did we add? What's been recognized? And what the ending balance is.
Can I export this to CSV to give it to an auditor?
You can dump it out to Excel with our handy dandy Excel button. We also support Google Sheets if you're using our other app, Wrangler.
All right. So what would happen if I paid for Accruer using Ramp? Could I sync it over to QuickBooks and accrue it for the whole year using Accruer?
I think Jesse told me that is the one thing we're not supposed to do. If you try to accrue Accruer with Accruer, I think something bad might happen.
Let's try it.